Good evening, everyone. 5 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is indeed a Thursday edition of On Cue. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up on this September 4th, 2025. And if you were a kid, which we were all kids, at one point or another. Some still haven't grown up. But anyway, if you were a kid, you would remember the holiday season and you would remember that song. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Ding, dong, ding, dong. And here we are. NFL season kicks off. So for the boyfriends out there, the husbands, kiss your wives, your girlfriends, your mistresses goodbye and say, you know what? I'll see you in about 6 to 7 months because NFL 2025 is upon us and I am ready to go. Philadelphia Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champs, kick off the season tonight hosting the arch rival, NFC East rival, the Dallas Cowboys. Week 1 lines we will get into. Will we get into our thoughts, predictions, our best plays? Oh, by the way, Lloyd Vance will join us in about 10 minutes. And we just dropped a new edition to start off 2025 of Back Your Play, which is not only going to be on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple, my YouTube channel, but it's also going to be aired. We're very pumped about this. It'll air on Channel 48 WWON in New York every Sunday, 11 to 12. And then you can lead into your network pregame wherever you hang your hat, Fox, CBS, NBC, NFL Network, the mothership, whatever. And you'll get your 60 minutes of Phil with Back Your Play from our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. So here we are. Get social with us on a Thought Out Thursday as we get ready to kick off 2025 NFL style at Rich Q on Q on IG and X, TikTok Rich Q on the mic. And let me just begin by saying this. The NFL season, it's a long season, but it also goes very fast. And enjoy it because week 1, everyone always believes they have a shot. There's optimism, there's hope. There's this false bravado. For some fan bases, you're a little delusional. You're reading the press clippings. For other fan bases, you realize, all right, maybe this is the year we come out of nowhere. For other fan bases, you kind of know this is our last stand. It's our last stand. And you're already seeing some incredible news coming down that's going to affect some of these teams in week 1 already. Now, I don't know how much stock you want to put in Amari Cooper retiring from the NFL after 10 years, but he was supposed to be a weapon for the Raiders. You got the injury with the Jets and their right guard as well. You got Kafka now going to be able to call plays once again for Brian Daboll on the Giants. Russ might marinate. He's got a couple games to get it done. You have all the pressure on the Philadelphia Eagles when you have talking heads coming out saying that Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni are the next friggin' coming of Christ and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Like, what the hell are we doing here with this nonsense? So you've got some teams that you think don't have a chance in hell to make some noise this NFL season. And they will. And they will. And I'll say this. You also have an opportunity. If you are a team that typically wins every single solitary season, you're winning 10, 11, 12 games, you're going to take a step back. You are going to take a step back this season. And that's why I think we're going to get some sleeper picks. We're going to get some dark horses. I mean, look, the question I'll throw out right now, do the Philadelphia Eagles have the horses to repeat? We know about the back-to-back champions in the NFC East and how it's such a rarity. It hasn't been done in 20 plus years. I'm talking about making a deep run through the playoffs. They've got the offense. They've got the defense. You've got an MVP caliber in Saquon Barkley. You have an MVP quarterback in Jalen Hurts. You've already proven, you've shown that you can go through the NFC. You've shown that you can beat the teams that you need to beat. Now, were you tested against a Lions team? No. Or Minnesota team? No. But you went through the teams you had to go through. Green Bay, the Rams, who a lot of people believe might be a very sneaky team to get back to the Super Bowl. And then, of course, the upstart Washington Commanders. It'll start tonight. I mean, look, we can dissect this game for a couple minutes, but it's really about the season as a whole. We'll do the predictions at 5:45, and I will tell you this. I have a feeling I'm going to rankle a lot of people with some of my predictions and my thoughts for the NFL season. And as I mentioned, that new episode of BYP dropped. Lloyd and I went through every single game. We talked about the two largest lines of the weekend, the Eagles tonight, 8.5. We talked about Denver, 8.5. We also talked about that Lions Packers line, which, oh, by the way, the look ahead line in May, the Lions were favored and now they're dogs. So we went through some of these player props. And I'm telling you right now, you might be able to grab some value early for some of these rushing totals by the quarterback, some of these player props, because some of them are ridiculously low. But the pressure is on the Philadelphia Eagles. The pressure is on Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. Pressure's on the Detroit Lions. Green Bay makes the splash now for Micah Parsons. They're expected to compete for the division and make a deep run in the playoffs. And then in the AFC, is this Kansas City's last stand? Baltimore has an MVP caliber quarterback in Lamar Jackson. They have a very good head coach. Buffalo is the window closing. Like, if not now, when? Cincinnati, their window could be closing as well. You don't want to waste some of these young quarterbacks' prime. So you've got so many, unbelievable storylines. Like, let me hear from you guys today. And like I said, I'll do my predictions right around 5:40, 5:45. But what are your biggest storylines going into the NFL season? Because I think you have a boatload of them. You're looking at some of these young quarterbacks. Are they going to regress? Are they going to take a step back? Are they going to actually take a step forward? That's so hard to do in the NFL. We always talk about this, right? We always talk about these quarterbacks taking that jump. And if you're Jalen Hurts, you've already proven you can take that jump. But now the question is, can you get this team back to the Super Bowl? Can you lead them back to the promised land? Can you have an opportunity to win it again and go back to back, which is a rarity? And as much as we want to break down the X's and O's when it comes to the NFL and scheme and talent and roster, you got to go out and you got to do it on a Sunday. You just have to go out and do it on a Sunday. And I believe the Philadelphia Eagles are built to get back to the Super Bowl. Now, the question is, will they? Well, it's yet to be seen. Obviously, the season starts tonight. In a game where, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, whether you're grabbing it at 7.5, 8.5, you grabbed it at 7, it sits at 9, you're walking into a very tough spot because the Eagles want nothing more than to basically kick the snot out of the Dallas Cowboys to open up the season. At home, banners being raised in front of a frenzied, fanatical fan base. You've got an all-world running back, a great quarterback, great wide receiver, solid tight end, hell of an offensive line. You got the defense. Sure, they've got question marks. Linebackers, the secondary. Every team does. But the expectation now for the Philadelphia Eagles is, can you do it again? Can you do it again? Can you duplicate that dance? Can you duplicate that dance? Now, I will say this. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni are the next coming of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Let's just pump the brakes, can we? And I understand that's a narrative that those on a mothership and other networks want to push. I'm also not going to sit here and tell you about some of these quarterbacks that have won and had unbelievable story careers aren't generational talents like some other jackasses want to say on networks, because that's a waste of friggin' airspace, and we're not going to do that for 60 minutes. But we know one thing. If you're a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, you've got the nastiest taste in your mouth of what transpired last year in the Super Bowl. You were not competitive. You didn't even friggin' show up. They can't wait to hit the field in Brazil tomorrow night to take on the Chargers. If you're Buffalo, if you're Baltimore, you got to do better than a second round appearance. You got to do better than an AFC championship game. I mean, you can ill afford to keep wasting the prime of Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. If you're Detroit, everything falls on that head coach and that quarterback. This is why you bring in a guy in Jared Goff, right? If you're Minnesota, no more Darnold. Now you go with McCarthy. I'm seeing some people picking Minnesota to make it to the Super Bowl. Now, is it out of the question? Second-year quarterback, make it to the Super Bowl? No, we've seen it before. We've seen it. Roethlisberger did it, right? I believe Marino did it, 84, 85, right? took Miami to the Super Bowl. We saw Roethlisberger do it. I know there's another. Joe Burrow did it with Cincinnati. So there's going to be an enormous amount of pressure on these teams and these quarterbacks to get it done early. And if you're a team like the Philadelphia Eagles right now, if you want to put the bullseye on your back, if you want to play that, we know we're the hunted, we're not hunting. We know we're the hunted. Everyone wants to go after us. Everyone wants to try to get us. Everyone wants to knock us down a peg. Whatever card the Philadelphia Eagles want to play, whatever narrative, whatever agenda you guys want to push, whatever motivates this team, so be it, man. I can care less. I can care less because they've got a good head coach, even though I've been critical of Nick Sirianni throughout his tenure with the Philadelphia Eagles. The guy has won. The Eagles win. Jalen Hurts wins. But now you know every team is going to give you that extra best shot. And I'm not going to say it's going to start tonight against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not going to say that because I think the Dallas Cowboys are in store for a very long season. And de facto, get ready to mark the tape at 5:45 because I'm about to blow your socks off, my friend. Scott chimes in, Q. I do miss the tune at the Marlton House every Sunday for football. How did that go? Correct. I'm telling you, that was a song, NFL Films, right? That was a song. I mean, that got you fired up. That, you get the little shoulder pump in there too, right? I mean, that's how you set everything up on Sunday. And back in the day, we were looking at the newspapers and these lines. And then by 4:15, a lot of us were chasing. And we'll leave it at that. We were chasing our losses. But what are your biggest storylines going into the season? Bold prediction. It's your time to shine today. I want to hear from you guys, the football fan. Vince chimes in. I feel like the Casey question is the exact same question we kept asking Brady and the hoodie in Boston. As long as Mahomes and Reed are together, I feel like there'll always be a problem for the AFC. I believe they will be a problem for the AFC, yes. But I also believe that they're not the same team. I also believe that you're going to have some distractions. Kelsey now getting engaged, the fanfare. Maybe Taylor Swift's going to be doing the Super Bowl halftime. I think, Andy Reid's a very good head coach. I don't believe they have the same type of skill set players that they had in past. Patrick Mahomes is still young, but you're also seeing Patrick Mahomes. Aaron Rodgers, as much as we killed him last year, put up better numbers than Patrick Mahomes. So I'll say this, the pressure's on Kansas City because everyone wants to believe that dynasty is not dead. And I thought last year the Philadelphia Eagles ended the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty. I really believe that. In my heart of hearts, I felt last year that was pretty much for Kansas City. Sure. Are they going to be a competitive team in the AFC West? Are they odds-on favorite to win the West? Yes, they are. Absolutely. Chargers are second, then Denver, then Raiders. But is this the same type of Kansas City team we've seen? Now, many have said, you look at their record last year, they won a lot of close games, smoke and mirrors, or it's just a mark of a very good team. I mean, we can make that case. I think somewhere the truth lies somewhere in between. But we already know that this team can get back to the Super Bowl. And listen, we also know the Philadelphia Eagles can lose the Super Bowl and then get back. Eagles could definitely repeat, but matchups week to week change, and it takes only one to possibly write the blueprint to stop them. And also, here's another thing too. And you don't want to bring it up. You don't want to, but injuries. Injuries. Look, Jalen Hurts, God forbid he goes down. God forbid you lose Saquon Barkley for a month. He's not going to carry the football as much as he did last year. He's just not. He's just not. He's not. They're not going to give him that workload. They're not. They're looking to save him, right? You're not. It's so hard to repeat. To have a 2,000-yard season, come back and duplicate that. Are you kidding me? That's got to be maddening. But I love these matchups this weekend. Eagles, Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers, Cincinnati and the Browns. That's somewhat of a compelling game for a couple different reasons. The Dolphins and the Colts, there's pressure on both these teams. The Raiders, New England, is May going to take that next step? Arizona, Kyler Murray, how bad are the Saints going to be? You got the Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers Bowl, Steelers and the Jets. My Giants against my Commanders. Then you have a matchup of two teams that people think might be sleepers and surprises: the Panthers, the Jags. Denver's laying 8.5 with a rookie quarterback on the road. 49ers, Seattle, now with Sling and Sammy, no Geno Smith. Then you got the Lions and Green Bay, the Texans and the Rams. The Ravens and the Bills is a week one, perhaps AFC championship preview. And then Minnesota and the Bears to close it out. I mean, wall to wall to wall. Wall to wall to wall. That's all you can ask for to start an NFL season. And we can sit there and say, yeah, the defenses are typically ahead of these offenses. And I mentioned the Eagles and the Broncos have the largest lines to start things off, 8.5, 9. But every team feels as though they've got a shot. And I'll ask you guys this. Realistically, how many teams have a chance, have a shot to make the Super Bowl? I would say 5 to 8. And out of those 5 to 8, how many teams realistically have a shot to win it? Like, we know the AFC is stacked. We would sit there, we can all agree, Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City. We're going to throw Cincinnati into that mix. We're going to throw Denver into that mix. So AFC is top heavy. And then in the NFC, there's questions regarding a lot of these teams that, as much as we want to say they have an opportunity to represent the NFC, we know the Eagles can do it because they've shown it. They've done it. But can the Commanders get back to the NFC Championship? Everyone, by all accounts, Jaden Daniels, what can we see in year 2? An exponential jump or a drop off? Detroit, you're getting older. Green Bay, it's kind of a mixed bag with Jordan Love. The NFC South, I think, stinks. I don't really feel threatened by any of those teams. And the NFC West, I got news for you guys, man. The Rams are tough. The Cardinals are tough. Seattle's always going to be a tough out. And then San Francisco, they're an enigma because that's a team that's always riddled with injuries. And that's the beauty of the NFL. We talk parity. We talk about the changing of the guard. We talk about how, some of these teams come out of nowhere. As a fan, the best seasons are the ones that you don't expect. Like, you can sit there and all of a sudden, you're 3-2, 4-2, 5. Like, for me, the Giants in 2007 go 0-2. They need a fourth down stop on the road against Washington. They gave up 38-42 to Dallas and Green Bay respectively. And then they made that goal line stop that pretty much triggered a 6-game winning streak. The rest is history. Like, you have those moments throughout the course of a season that define a season, set the tone for a season. And I do believe there are some teams that, you shouldn't even bother to wake up. I mean, I'm just being honest here. No team is the same year to year. Good coaches and teams find a way to win different types of games. They may not put up 30, but if they make plays when they need to, what's the difference? I guess you're talking about Kansas City. Didn't Q work at the White House in Pennsauken? I did not. That was actually a Wizards off of Chestnut Street. Did I frequent the White House? Because they gave you basically a soda and some popcorn, and it was $5 to get in. You get a little loose. Yeah, I did. Did I do it during high school? I did. Absolutely. My top storyline I'm paying attention to is what happens with the Browns. If they stink, as we all assume, will they fire Barry and Kevin Stefanski? How many QBs play? Who's the best of them, etc.? Well, that's your, what is that? That's your Shedeur Sanders, right? Your lead. And I'm surprised you didn't bring up your de facto Jags fan, right? And Trevor Lawrence and the pressure on him, Vince. And Travis Hunter, offensive rookie of the year. Oh, wait, defensive rookie of the year. The Browns are going to be interesting in this regard. If they come out of the gate 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, Gabriel's going to get a shot. If it doesn't work with Gabriel, then the question is, are we going to see Shedeur Sanders? And if you've listened to the show enough, a lot of people are very high on Stefanski and Barry. They believe if they're fired, they're going to be able to get a job right away. Cincinnati fixed the defense, though, de facto. Cincinnati went out and they made, they made the moves that they needed to make to fix their defense. Let's not write them off, right? I mean, they turn around, they get the kid Stewart, the edge out of Texas A&M. They come right back in the second round and they get the linebacker out of South Carolina, Knight. right? And then they drafted another linebacker to kick Carter out of Georgia in the fourth round. Like they realized, and they re-signed um, Hendrickson. They took care of that contract, which was a major out. Just I don't want to say albatross, but the elephant in the room. They arguably signed their best player beside Joe Burrow, a defensive end that had 17 and a half sacks. Cincinnati's going to be okay. Joe Burrow could have won the MVP last year. They're going to put up a lot of points. They're going to put up a lot of points. So Cincinnati in the AFC North, they might not win a division, but they should be a playoff team. They should. Cowboys plus 8.5. As much as I think the Eagles will win, I think Cowboys in week one and the Eagles in week one game will be closer than people think. I honestly, I don't see it. I mean, I'll save it for later. I think the Dallas Cowboys, I think the Micah Parsons trade, even though, I stated my opinion on the Micah Parsons trade. You guys already heard it in nauseum. I don't need to rehash it. I don't know if that locker room got divided. I don't know if that locker room feels like it was a punch in the gut, but Micah Parsons is not on that defense anymore. And that was a defense that already had some issues. I can see Saquon running the ball hard tonight, picking up an easy 100. I can see Hurts in that offense opening up. And then, listen, if this is a team that's down 17-3 in Dallas, I don't trust Prescott to throw him back in the game. Now, if you want to sit there and say it's week one, that line is high, and it's crept up to 8.5, 9. If you think this is a 31-20 type of game, 31-23, I guess you can say, you get that late cover, that late field goal, that late touchdown by Dallas, then you're probably feeling pretty good about yourselves. But ultimately, I think, this has the makings of a 31-10 type of game. I really do. The Eagles play this, they almost play this like victim kind of Karen martyr, woe is me, even though they're defending Super Bowl champs, because in their mind, they still believe they're slighted. All off season, what was the conversation? Is Jalen Hurts a top 5 quarterback? Is Jalen Hurts a franchise quarterback? Is Jalen Hurts elite? Is Nick Sirianni a legit head coach? Well, they gave him a contract extension. But they quietly kind of went about their business as a defending Super Bowl champ, and they had a good draft, and they made some good moves. And they were able to avoid a lot of what other teams don't, and that's injuries. And guys moving around. Sure, they lost some on the defense, don't get me wrong, and they made up for it on the back end. But they've got the talent to get right back to the championship. They have the talent to get right back to the Super Bowl. And I just think tonight is almost like a coming out party. Like they want to shut the Dallas Cowboys up. And remember, too, you got a head coach in his debut in Schottenheimer on the road, big spot, prime time with all the noise of Micah Parsons and all this other nonsense in a hostile environment. That is a tough, tough out. Seriously. Honestly, Q, I think the NFL hasn't been this wide open in maybe a decade. No one would be surprised if Detroit, Green Bay, Eagles, Broncos, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, wash Bengals, and there could be another 3 or 4. You're talking about making a run. Don't we say this every year, though? Don't we say this every year? It's wide open. I feel like we say it every year. I really do. I feel like we say it every year. The NFL's wide open. 34-28 kind of win for the Eagles. Well, I mean, look, if you're taking Dallas into points, you're loving that. If you're hitting the over, have fun, 47.5. The highest total comes in your 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock games on Sunday. Go today in the chat for Q. Peace and love. Not going to rock Q's boat. He was livid at the chat yesterday. I was pissed off. I was annoyed at the chat yesterday because you guys were taking unwarranted shots about the hair, the microphone, and also my allergies. And we can't have that. De facto says my top storyline, Commanders start 0-2, and then we see how they react. Your Commanders. Kiki barking at the Kiki barking at Q's hot takes. Lies. Scott says, I can't wait to see who we find out, who was underrated and make the playoffs. Hopefully it's at least 3 teams like that. I'm thinking Chargers, maybe Cardinals, teams like that. Well, there's always surprises, as we like to say in the NFL. Always, 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 always surprises in the NFL. And I always caution people, we just never know from one year to the next. And I know for a fact, as we get through our predictions, which we're going to do in a couple moments, they might be scathing. And that's why we have to bring in our guy, the fearless one, Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on 1029 FM. The Game at Lloyd Vance. Him and I just dropped a ridiculous back year play. We went through every single friggin' game on the slate, starting with tonight, ending with Monday Night Football, Minnesota and the Bears. We went through player props, totals, unders, projections, and that's why we had to wolf down a couple fresh coffee of BYP, and that's our good friends from Fresh Roasted Coffee. All right, my friend. Week 1, Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles. Let me ask you this to start things off. Do you believe the Eagles have the horses to repeat as NFL champs, get back to the Super Bowl and win it again?
Well, I mean, on paper, yes, but it's so hard being the hunted than the hunter. What the Chiefs did was special, almost getting that three-peat. I mean, you just don't see it. I mean, it was the Chiefs, and then you got to go all the way back to the Patriots in what, 03, 04. So it's a long gap, and every season's different. There's defections. You talk about Milton Williams and Sweat and, Brandon Graham retiring. And also guys say, I lifted more of the shovels than anybody else. You know what I mean? They want their kudos. They want, and maybe they go to free agents. So it's just very difficult. And when I look at this Eagles team, though, Q, to answer your question, they are talented all over the place. But the key thing you got to watch with them is injuries. And last year they were very healthy. Already both their receivers are banged up, and Dickerson's banged up on the offensive line. And as you said, every season's different. A big defection was Mekhi Becton going to the Chargers. And everybody says, could Saquon do it again? 2,000 yards, et cetera. But it's going to be tough with Becton being gone. So, they on paper, yes, but I don't think they're going to do it.
A lot of guys think that the NFL it hasn't been this wide open, since about a decade ago. And I would maintain, I always feel every year we sit there and say there's parity in the NFL, right? You always talk about back-to-back winners in the NFC East. We're talking about some of these teams that were non-playoff teams that make the playoffs, some of these teams that are taking a step back. Let me appease the Washington fan for a moment, and probably the Eagles fan too, that they don't believe in the Washington Commanders. Year number 2 for Jaden Daniels. So we're seeing some of these young quarterbacks, right? It's almost like, okay, what can you do for an encore? Do you believe the Washington Commanders take a step back? Do you believe Jaden Daniels regresses?
No, I don't think they take a huge step back, Q. I actually, we'll come over a pick soon, but I think they'll be in the mix to be one of the wild card teams. They may push the Eagles for the top of the NFC East, and they shore up the offensive line, bringing in Laramie Tunsil and a couple former Cowboys are trying to clean that up. And you just wonder about age at certain positions, particularly running back with Austin Eckler, tight end with Zach Ertz, middle linebacker by Bobby Wagner. But they do have this dynamic young player in terms of Jaden Daniels. And he got his guy, McLaren got paid, so he has him on the outside. So I expect them to be explosive, but it's going to be a 2-horse race in the NFC East.
Dallas fan 6 chimes in on XQ. How about Dak's last 6 Thursday night games? 70% completion percentage, 272 yards, 14-5 touchdown interceptions, 6-0. Take that, Q. That's all well and good, but you know what? Totally different animal. Kevin chimes in. Q, I see that the Giants restructured Andrew Thomas's contract, creating about $13 million. Thoughts on the Giants? Lloyd and I talked a little bit about that. They take on Washington. Kafka is going to call the plays. I guess I'll go on record right now, as the guys like to say, mark the tape. I was asked a lot during the week, when do I envision or when can I foresee Jackson Dart being the starting quarterback for the Giants? And I'll tell you right now, because I think they're going to have problems coming out of the gate against Washington, against the Cowboys, against Kansas City and the Chargers. If they're 1-3, 1-4, well, if they're 1-3, 0-4, as much as I say you don't start a rookie quarterback on the road, I would look at that Saints game, October 5th, because right after that game, you have the Eagles, Denver, and the Eagles. I mean, unless you wait until November, if they're like 4-3, and then you start them on the road against Chicago. But I think you want to see this kid sooner rather than later. I hate the fact, by the way, Lloyd, I'll tell you right now, that Kafka is going to call plays. you bring in Brian Dayball because you think that's the guy that's going to turn a Daniel Jones into Josh Allen, or now a Jackson Dart into Josh Allen. Let him call the friggin' plays. But that's, I say 4 weeks you give Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Q. And on my show, we've been talking a lot about coaches on the hot seat, and there's none hotter than Dayball and then Joe Shane in the GM seat. So they got a lot to prove. And you and I joked earlier. I said, let Russ simmer. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you let him start, but it's going to be Jackson Dart. They've already moved him into that number 2 spot, and we'll see how the season plays out. But when you look at other than Neighbors, there's really not a lot of explosive players on this offense. And Tracy in the offensive line, it's kind of in flux. It's been for a number of years. Thomas, yes, quality player. It's good he tried to free up some cap space, but they're going to try to lean on that defense. Obviously, their defensive line with Abdul Carter and the rest of the guys up front, they're going to try to make some plays to get turnovers. And that's going to be a big thing. But it's going to be hard for them. And it's probably going to be a tough season. And I would probably say Jackson Dart's probably going to be in there. Probably their bye week is late, so you
Yeah.
probably figure he'll be in there. In my opinion, maybe by the time they play Philadelphia week
Yeah.
6 or Denver week 7, I mean, and then they have the Eagles week 8. I mean, that's a tough stretch for any rookie. I mean,
Very
their
tough.
their schedule's very tough. You and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
So it may be tough times for them, but maybe they need to just tear it down and rebuild. So we'll just
Their
see. Yeah.
their defense, I think, is going to be good. And listen, Robinson's a nice player. Theo Johnson's a nice player. Tracy and Singletary, they're nice players as well. But I think they're going to have a hard time moving the football, like scoring points, right? But we'll see. Vince says, anyone else see Dak's comments on the trade? Get the feeling that maybe he was behind the trade. Maybe they chose Kobe over Shaq. Or am I reading into this too much? I mentioned how long have I been saying that Micah Parsons doing the podcast was rubbing people the wrong way, right? I mean, so, but that's nor here nor there. Maybe Dak did have a hand. Who knows? At the end of the day, it's funny. The report comes out that the Philadelphia Eagles were inquiring about Micah Parsons. I mean, you want to talk about if Jerry Jones actually made that move, he would be MIA, man. Jerry Jones might be floating in the Hudson. Like the Dallas Cowboys fans would have figured out a way to get rid of Jerry Jones. I mean, you don't even pick up the phone at the Philadelphia Eagles call. All right, let me give you this before we kind of go through our divisional winners and stuff like that. And I know I'll give you first crack at everything. Give me one or two major storylines you're going to be watching for this season.
Well, a couple, Q. We talk about these coaches on a hot seat, and will they, prove me wrong? That's one of them you got to talk about. And then how about last year was the year of the rookie quarterback? He had, we talked about Bo Nix and him jumping forward and getting his team into the playoffs. But this year, Cam Ward is the only rookie quarterback starting. So you got to watch that. Obviously, you and I have been talking about forever. Shedeur Sanders, is he ever going to get his chance? I think he will. I think it'll be Gabriel first, but I think Sanders get his chance. So that'll be something that we'll be talking about. Obviously, the Chiefs, are they on a revenge tour? That's a big thing. Everybody wants to talk about Travis Kelce getting engaged and all that stuff, but it's really about Mahomes wants to wipe that taste out of his mouth from that Super
Agree.
Bowl. He
But
just
what veteran team has the most pressure coming out of the AFC? I mean, Kansas City has shown they can win before. Is it Cincinnati fixing the defense? Is it Baltimore, Lamar Jackson? Is it Buffalo, McDermott, and Josh Allen? Like, which team really has pressure? Look, man, Kansas City's getting older. They're not the same team. Yeah, they're the Chiefs with Andy Reid and Mahomes. You still give them a puncher's chance, but here's an opportunity to knock them back off their perch. Like, out of those teams I mentioned, who do you sit there and say, man, if you don't win it this year, you might never win it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll boil it down to two teams there. You got to put the Baltimore Ravens right up top there. Q. Lamar Jackson 3-5, John Harbaugh been there since '07, and you're starting to wonder, like, all right, has this team lost their fastball? And then to Steve Bisciotti's credit, they have really built a roster there. You look at that defense. It has a lot of teeth and a lot of players at every level of that defense now. And it's now or never for them. So, definitely the Ravens are on that hot seat, do it now or never. And then obviously the Bills, we've all been watching Hard Knocks, and everybody has high expectations for them. And it's because Josh Allen is the defending MVP. They gave Cook his money. But defensively, it's kind of scary. They're pretty average on defense, and they've had a lot of injuries. They were hoping that rookie that they got in the first round could step forward. He really hasn't been doing a lot. And then offensively, you have Josh Allen, you have Cook, but the receiver group is kind of nondescript. You have the two tight ends and Dawkins on the line. So, yeah, a lot of pressure on them, high expectations, but you wonder if they can get it done finally.
Mark Delaware, Monday Marcus, Sarge chiming in, Joey D. Enough of the friggin' chit chat. This is the consensus. Get to your friggin' predictions and picks. Every year, I feel going back to the days of $12.90 the ticket. I've always, me. I like to. It's not even thinking outside the box, and it's not a contrarian take. You've been doing this with me long enough. When I make a pick or thought a prediction, I stand by it. Like, I don't just say it to say it. It's because it's what I friggin' believe. So let's start with the NFC East. So we'll go division to division. We'll go back and forth. I guess we would both agree that the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the division, and we'll crown them your NFC East champs.
Yeah, Q, for the first time, since 03-04, I believe they're going to be a back-to-back champion. Now, the Eagles, it's not going to be that cakewalk they had at the end of the season where they were sitting people the last two games.
Yep.
I think it may be a little closer, but I think the Eagles win that division.
All right, NFC West. You got some real good teams. You got a lot of storylines. You got a lot of quarterbacks under the microscope. I know everyone's high on the Rams. I know everyone's looking at Seattle. Tough spot. My guy's slinging Sammy. My dark horse coming out of the NFC West is going to be Arizona. And I mentioned to you, I think this a month or two ago, even talking about their draft. They get the kid Johnson out of Michigan, the cornerback. They get defensive tackle Nolan from Ole Miss. You got Kyler Murray. I think he's a dark horse MVP candidate. They can run the friggin' football. They can throw the football. They've got weapons. You've got Starvin Marvin. You got Trey McBride, who I think is arguably the best tight end in the NFL. He's an emerging tight end. He's a stud. So I'm looking at the Cardinals right now to win the NFC West.
Wow. And it's funny, my son comes on my show a lot, and he beats his chest for his Cardinals. So we'll see. I think the Cardinals will be better. We'll probably get to them in a minute. But this division, these guys, they beat up on each other. And last season, you had the Seahawks lose on tiebreakers in terms of this division. So they were 10-7. They've made a lot of positive steps. As long as Walker can be healthy, their defense is young and fast. I'm picking Seattle. I think Seattle's going to be able to close that gap. And the Rams, a couple things. Age, with Stafford, you got to wonder about that. Defensively, where are they at? I know they have Verse and Fisk. And then the Niners. Is McCaffrey going to stay healthy the whole season? I mean, he's the engine.
So let me ask you a question with the Niners. And I got killed from the Niners fans that chime in. When do we start to put that head coach on the hot seat?
Yeah, everybody's always thought Shanahan's a genius. He's this, he's that. They put him in that upper echelon. I've been saying for a number of years, yeah, he needs to be called out, until he wins a Super Bowl. Don't say he's that one of those top 5 coaches in the NFL. I think he's got to prove it. And that roster is getting very old. You look at Trent Williams, for example. He's 36 years old. That's their best offensive lineman. Kittle getting up there. Ayuk's injury is something you really got to watch. And it's just on and on. A lot of question marks with this team.
NFC North, just by default, Tampa Bay. I'm sorry, NFC South, Tampa Bay. That division, I mean, it's just like, I look at that division and I'm like, man, I wish a team like the Giants was in that division. I mean, it's not a sexy division. I just think Tampa Bay, on face value, like Carolina, I think is a team on the rise. Atlanta, I'm not sold on the quarterback. I'm not sold on the coaching staff. You got weapons you haven't even really utilized aside from the running back. And then we've already talked about the Saints. The Saints might be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I mean, they might, the Saints. You can actually make a case for the Saints if they don't win. I mean, of course, if they don't win, but they can be a 1 or 2 win team. Hell, they can even go winless. I mean, think about this. They've got the Cardinals, the 49ers, Seattle, the Bills, and let's say the Giants beat them. Then you've got the Pats, the Bears, the Bucks, the Rams, the Panthers, the Falcons, the Dolphins, the Bucks, the Panthers, the Jets. Maybe you get a win on the road late against the Titans. I see this team winning 2 or 3 games at best.
Yeah, it's going to be a long season for them. It's all say it was Allen, and they got rid of him, bringing in Kellen Moore. Mickey Loomis is still there, general manager. He's got a lot of work to do. Rattler, very good high school quarterback, but I just don't see him getting it done in the NFL. So they may have to tear that thing up. I agree with you. They're probably going to be one of the worst teams. The Panthers are going to be they're going to surprise some people. They're going to win more games than people thought, so they'll be in there. But I'm going to surprise in this division, Q. I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Atlanta Falcons, there's some desperation there. Moore's got to get it done. Fontenot, the GM there's got to get done. They invested heavily in defense in the draft.
They did.
Jesse Bates out. You got Bijan Robinson, Drake London there. And it's all about Michael Penix Jr. He's got to take that next step. And then on the other side of it, Tampa Bay, they're getting a little older. They're a little banged up. Tristan Wirfs, they're a great offensive lineman. He's already banged up. And Bucky Irvin's going to have to carry the load because Rashad White's kind of banged up as well. And at the receiver position, we know about Godwin. So, it's always tight in this division, but I think it's time a new dog steps.
Those are fair points you bring up with their defense. They draft the linebacker out of Georgia, Walker. They get the kid Pierce Jr., the edge rusher out of Tennessee. They go safety in rounds 3 and 4. I don't trust the quarterback, to be quite honest with you. I don't think the quarterback's very good.
Yeah,
and maybe I
proven in the NFL. He was a good college quarterback, and now we'll have a full sample size of him. Let's not forget he came in about mid-season or something.
But who do you think about this? Who do you also have waiting in the wings just in case?
Yeah, in case breaking case of glass. $27 million backup, highest ever, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. By the way, odds-wise, NFC South, Tampa plus 105. So a little more shorter odds. Obviously, the shortest in Atlanta plus 250. Carolina at plus 425, and then the Saints at plus 1,500. So I'm like I said, yeah, man, I'm going the complete. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bucks coming out, and then everyone's waiting for the other shoe to drop with Detroit, and I still believe they're a tough team to beat, especially at home. They can score. Yeah, they got to fix the defense. We talked a little bit about that. Jared Goff, is not getting any younger. I believe in the head coach. Now, is this a team that's going to win 13, 14, 15 games? I don't believe that. Now, their schedule to open up the season, you might get a couple quick losses. Maybe they lose to the Packers. Maybe they stub their toe against the Bears and lose to the Ravens. It would be full-blown panic time at 1-2, 0-3. But they're good enough to make that up as long as you can stay within striking distance of who? Green Bay and Minnesota, which they're going to get the back end of their schedule. You've got some winnable games to close out the season. That Vikings game on the road might decide the division. That Packers game late at home in November might decide or a leg up in the division. I don't see them being a top seed, but I do see the Lions just by virtue of the pedigree, because I'm not entirely sold on Jordan Love, and we don't know what the hell that kid's going to do in Minnesota. And you know what I feel about Caleb Williams, but I like the Lions winning the North.
Yeah, it's an interesting division. You had 3 teams last year make the playoffs out of this division, and I think it's going to be tougher than last year. Last year, the Lions' highest scoring team in the league last year, 564 points they scored, and running up and down the field, but 15 wins in the regular season, nice, but Goff was just terrible in the playoffs, and
he was bad.
They had quick exit at home. Yes, they can say the Commanders surprised them, etc. And they had a lot of injuries last year, so you got to factor that in. They're getting a lot of their people back healthy. But, I just think this trade of Parsons may be tilting this division here. You're going to have Gary on one side, you have Parsons on the other. That defense has a lot of teeth now with
Yeah.
McKinney on the back end as well. So, I think as long as Jordan Love's healthy with that thumb and they can still count on Jacobs, I think it may be the Packers here now. They have to turn it around. They were 1-5 in this division, so they got to win those divisional games. But I think the Packers win it. It's going to be close, maybe 1 or 2 games. It may come down to the end of the season. And then the Vikings, look, they won 14 games last year, and we
With
both
Sam Darnold.
total surprise last year. And I think they're going to take a step back from that. And J.J. McCarthy, he's going to have growing pains. He did not play at all last season. And then their defense, Harrison Smith's already a little banged up. So, yeah, I think it's going to be the Packers. The Lions will be in the mix, though. And in the Bears, even though Eberflus is gone, Ben Johnson just has a lot to clean up there. And Williams has looked terrible in camp.
So who are your 3 wild card teams?
Sure. Wild cards, I'm going to go with the Commanders, the Lions, and then I was on the fence of this last one. I had the Bucks, and I crossed it out, and I went with the Cardinals.
Wow. So let me pull this up. So here's my divisional winners and my wild cards. My wild card teams are the Packers, Washington, and how about this?
Whoa.
How about your Carolina? Get on board what they're building in Carolina. Get
Yeah.
on board what they're. Listen, I know if you on the surface you sit there and say, "Are you freaking kidding me?" There's no way they're a wild card team. It's not going to take much. It might be 8 wins. Maybe you squeeze out 9 wins, but I'm going to give you my reasoning behind this. Okay, I'm gonna give you my reasoning behind this. This is a team that they were going to write off their quarterback. I mean, let's just be honest. But they kind of changed the whole culture. That head coach, he's a young head coach. He's a promising head coach. They made the right moves roster wise. They got a weapon for a young quarterback. They went out and they went defense the next couple draft picks. They brought in a mix of some veterans. I also told you that I look at that division. I think there's going to be some winnable games. Now, I will say this. I think they can go on the road and beat Jacksonville, and they've got Atlanta. That's a winnable game. New England, Miami's a winnable game. They can beat the Jets. That's a winnable game. They can beat the Saints. That's a winnable game. They can beat the Falcons. That's a winnable game. They can come back. They can beat the Saints again. I mean, that's 7, 8 wins right there. And maybe they split with a team like Tampa Bay. But I'm telling you, I think we rode off Bryce Young way too fast. So they're my final wild card team to come in out of the NFC.
Yeah, and Q, it could happen. Every year I always say it, 4 new teams are in the playoffs at least since 1990. So every year there's these surprise teams that kind of jump out of the mix. Last year, think about the Vikings. Nobody thought, their record was terrible the year before, and everybody thought, they'd probably be about a 6-win team or so, and then they jump out and win 14. So if you get hot, get on a streak, it can happen. Now, the Panthers, I do like them bringing in Ted McMillan, pairing him with Hubbard. Young has played a lot better in terms of his decision-making and that time. Remember, he was benched for Andy Dalton, then he got the opportunity after an unfortunate car accident. He came in there. Defensively, though, it's going to be interesting. They got to make plays. The defense, not a lot of big names on that defense. So, yeah, and the pressure is going to be on Canales and his group because, David Tepper, their owner, is not very patient.
All right, AFC now. We'll start with the AFC East. Again, it's pretty easy for me. I think Miami's going to be bad. I think New England is going to be a much better team than people give them credit for. They might be an outside playoff team, outside shot. The Jets are going to be horrible. The Justin Fields experiment. I just, this loss now of one of your guards, they're going to have to run it a lot more. I love the Bills. I think the Bills are at least a 10, 11 win team.
Yeah, Q. And I think they've won it the past 5 years. And when you look at this division on paper, it's like, okay, yeah, the Bills do have some holes in terms of their defense. Are they explosive enough? Are they going to make enough big plays like sacks? But they do have Josh Allen. And in this division, you got to go with the best quarterback because yeah, Drake May is coming along, but the other quarterbacks are big question marks. So I think Josh Allen will have enough to will this team. The thing is, will they be able to go on the road and win in the playoffs? They know they have this huge advantage at home, 8-0 in Buffalo last year. So, but I do think Cook getting that contract is going to help out. They're hoping Shakur can play at a high level as well. So yeah, I go with the Bills.
AFC South, Indianapolis, you got Daniel Jones. Tennessee, you got a young quarterback. Jacksonville, I'm just not feeling it. And I still believe that loss of Ingram's going to hurt Jacksonville. They're going to win some games. And I like Trevor Lawrence, but I'm still not feeling it. I think right now it's like almost the NFC South with Tampa Bay. I mean, the Texans, it's their division to lose, man. I don't know. Now, you got a couple hard games to start the season against the Rams, Bucks, and Jacksonville. And then you got the Ravens and the Seattle Seahawks. So it's a tough, and Kirk's going to miss the opener, I think, for the Texans. But it's a tough schedule, but I just am not sold on the rest of the teams in the division. And hell, maybe nine wins gets that division.
Yeah, Q, when you look at this division, 10 wins got it done last year for the Texans, and they did not play very well, particularly down the stretch. But I think CJ Stroud will have a bounce back type of season, and as well as Nico Collins, who was a little banged up last year. Interesting to see how Nick Chubb plays for them, and with Joe Mixon being out. The Colts, you got a new owner coming in there, and the pressure's on Steichen. Can they get it done? But the whole thing with Anthony Richardson, that's just a big cloud over that team. I don't think they've stepped forward. Liam Cohen, this may be another situation where a new coach needs another offseason to help clean everything up because there was just so much problems there. They do have Hines Allen and some other guys there. Everybody wants to see what Travis Hunter does. But I think Jacksonville, they were a 4-win team last year. You know what I mean? Yeah, maybe this year they jumped about 7 or so, but I don't think they challenged for the division. So I stick with the old. I'll go with the Texans again.
AFC North's got to be Baltimore, Lamar Jackson. You can't waste his prime. Cincinnati is going to be right there, but it's Baltimore to me. Cleveland's going to stink. Pittsburgh, this is going to be the season where it's going to be Mike Tomlin's last season at Pittsburgh. Give me the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, that offense, that defense, and Harbaugh.
Well, I don't know if it's his last season, but I'm
telling you, man, they're going to be
it's going to be his first season with a losing record,
which is going to be his last.
And well, Aaron Rodgers may do him, and we'll see. But Q, I do agree with you that this is the Ravens division. When you look at them on paper, what DeCosta has done in terms of that defense is just scary. I mean, they finally have some playmakers on the defensive line, linebackers, and in the secondary there. Lamar Jackson's obviously got to put on Superman cape, but in the playoffs is all that matters. 3-5 in the playoffs, and he'll have his opportunities. But I do believe the Bengals will be in the mix as long as they don't start 0-3. You and I have talked about this over and over again. Burrow 1-9, weeks 1 and 2. He can't have that this season. So I think the Bengals will be more explosive. But other than Hendrickson, that defense got to scare you. But I go Ravens in this division.
Jay in Ohio. Mike in Ohio is a Cleveland fan. Jay in Ohio is a Cincy fan. He used to tune in to 1290 The Ticket. Q, did you hear Ryan Clark? If Bengals lose first 2 games, the season's over. What a jackass. Yeah, he also said that Tom Brady wasn't a generational talent, so he needs to shut up and go away too. No, the season's not over. So the Ravens, there you go. All right, how about this? Now this is where I might kind of shock the world. The AFC West. Everyone is just sitting there. Kansas City, Andy Reid, Mahomes, Kelsey, Swan Song. Here we go. You got Harbaugh. You got the wonderful locks of Herbert. You got the Raiders and their, new faces of, Geno Smith, even though Cooper decides to retire. The one quarterback I've been very high on, aside from the other quarterback that you guys already know of, is Bo Nix. And I said it a couple weeks ago. I said it a month ago, a couple weeks ago, last week. I'm going to say it again. The dynasty, it's done. The run's over. The Denver Broncos are winning the AFC West. The Kansas City Chiefs are not winning the AFC West. The Denver Broncos I know it was such a sneaky move for Ingram. They can run the football. They play run defense. They have a very good defense as a whole. They're secondary. They paid their players. Bo Nix, year number 2 in that system. He's got a good head coach when you talk about schematics and scheme and game planning in Sean Payton. I'm telling you right now, you want to bookmark it, bookmark the friggin' show, bookmark the friggin' tape. And Kansas City has a tough start to the schedule. Chargers, Eagles, Giants, Ravens, Jacksonville. So that's something that bears worth watching. Now they'll see Denver second to last game of the season. The Denver Broncos, Titans, Colts, Chargers, Bengals, they can get a couple quick little wins. But I like what they did in the draft. They went a little mixed bag. They went cornerback. They went running back. They added a wide receiver out of Illinois in the 3rd round. Give Bo Nix, let him cook a little bit, give him some weapons. I think if this offensive line continues to protect him, he doesn't take hits, he makes the right read and the right progressions, you've got enough rushing and an attack, a team that averages about 14.2 a clip. You got a hell of a wide receiver core. I love Denver. I love Bo Nix. And I'm telling you right now, the Denver Broncos will win the AFC West.
Sorry,
And
buddy, you're
TT
wrong.
approves.
You're wrong. The Chiefs have won it, what, 10 in a row? And if they win, if they win one more, they tie Belichick and Brady with that division. You know what I mean? Division winner. So it's going to be tight, though. It's not going to be as easy as last year. Much like I was talking about the Lions and the way they, last year Kansas City was a 15-win team, but they won 11 games, by one score. Think about all the ways
people were saying smoke and mirrors, so they're a really good team.
Yeah, but when you have that coach quarterback combination, they're always going to be in the mix. So I think it's going to be tight. It's going to be closer. I do believe in Denver as well. I think that, Sean Payton, the head coach, George Payton, the general manager, are really building there. I like Harvey as well, their rookie that they're bringing in, and then obviously Bo Nix. So they're going to be a fun team to watch. And their defense, 63 sacks, the most in the NFL last year. So, yeah, I think Broncos are going to be good, but I just think the Chiefs will find a way. And your buddy Travis Kelce is going to be happy again with his division win.
Bronco ball, let Bo Nix cook. All right, here are my wild card teams that I'll flash them up. Cincy, Kansas City is a wild card, and I got the Chargers. I got 3 teams coming out of the AFC West.
Okay. I got the Patriots, the Bengals, and the Broncos as my wild cards.
Okay. So you think the Patriots take that jump?
Yeah, I think they will be, I think Drake May is playing with a lot more consistency. Hopefully Diggs will get some, traction as the number 1. And then Henderson, you got to watch for him. I think he's going to have a big season there, running back they drafted. And Vrabel's going to bring that discipline. So I think the Patriots will take that step up. Bengals will get off to a better start. They won't go 0-3, so they'll be in a mix. And then we talked about the Broncos and what they're building there.
All right, give me your Super Bowl predictions, because mine might basically floor. They literally might floor some people that are listening in, and I don't feel like getting hammered with a couple minutes left to play with. So who does Lloyd Vance have coming out of the AFC, coming out of the NFC?
And then I got to pick a winner too?
Hell yeah.
Oh my God. All right, let me think.
Putting you on the spot, man.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I will go, I think it's going to be a team that's never won it before this year. I think one of them is going to jump into the mix. So I think it's going to be Buffalo in the AFC. I think they finally get over the hump. They get to the Super Bowl. And then out of the NFC, I'll put them against the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to get back to the big dance. Their roster, when you look at it, is just, it's loaded. You know what I mean? But this could be the season of destiny for the Bills. You know what I mean? Much like the Eagles in 2017, they found a way. I think Josh Allen finally gets it done. Sean McDermott, a lot of people questioning him. So I'll say Bills over the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
All right. So I thought about this, and this is going to piss people off and rub them the wrong way. And quite frankly, I don't really give a crap. Because as you know, like I said, if I believe it, I say it. and it's just my convictions, right? And I got to stand by it. And it's the two quarterbacks of the two teams. I've been maybe sucking on the juice too much, maybe drinking the juice way too much, but I see two young quarterbacks in season number two, numero dos, making that ridiculous jump. One of them coming out of the NFC is my guy, Jaden
Oh,
Daniels. The Washington Redskins. I don't want to hear that they arrived too early. I don't want to hear that it's a fluke. I don't want to hear from De Facto. I don't want to hear from the Bunker Boys. I don't want to hear from Sarge. I don't want to hear from Jody. I want to hear from Tom in Summers Point. I don't want to hear from Mark in Wallingford. I don't want to hear from any of you freaking clowns. The Washington Commanders, my Washington Commanders, who got smoked by the Eagles, who were ill prepared to show up in an NFC championship game, will not only get back to the NFC. This is not a spite pick, you clown. This is not a spike pick, okay? Mark the friggin' tape and keep the friggin' receipt. Washington, I'm telling you right now, they are building something. And the Eagles, so I don't tell me they don't have a D and they don't have a running back. They will play just enough defense, and their offense can score points. And remember, too, I'm also adding this in. Somewhere along the line, the Eagles get clipped in the playoffs. Somewhere along the line, the Vikings get clipped. So they might turn around and play the Panthers. Who knows? But right now, coming out of the NFC, my Washington Commanders, and they will meet. Here it comes. They will meet. This is a repeat. How about this, Lloyd Vance? How about this, listeners of On Q? This is a Super Bowl 22 rematch, and it's not going to go 42-10. Doug Williams and Timmy Smith aren't walking through that door. Bo friggin' Nix and the Denver Broncos will clash against the Washington Commanders in the Super Bowl. And Bo Nix will be the MVP. Hell, I'm even going to give you a friggin' score as a bonus on a Thursday. 34-31.
I don't know,
Denver wins
Angel
this.
or whoever's behind the glass. You tape this
No,
and put it out there, people.
no, there it is,
You
baby.
put
30.
he just played the mush. He put the mush Broncos and Bo Nix. If
Part of me
something
was
happens to
actually
him tomorrow, man, it
Part
would
of
be
me was nervous
Sunday.
because God forbid if one of these quarterbacks go down in week 1 or 2, I will never hear the
You
end of
sure
it.
will. You're gonna get a lot of texts, man.
Listen, I think Kansas City, that dynasty, I think the run is done. I do. I really do. What are you drinking? The lay? I'm not drinking the layup. I'm not drinking the layup at all. I don't know where the rest of the corporation is. I don't know where the rest of the get them on the horn. I don't know. I don't know where the rest of the corporation is. All I'm saying is that out of the AFC, I can't trust Buffalo and Baltimore. They find a way to just go through heartache, and you're just burning through their careers, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I also believe that the AFC West is just as tough as the AFC North because the Chargers are a playoff team. Denver's going to be a playoff team. Kansas City's a playoff team, and the Raiders are going to be better. So now all of a sudden, I'm looking at the body of work. I'm looking at the resume, the matchup, right? Division for division. In the AFC North, Cleveland stinks, Pittsburgh stinks, Cincinnati's good, but they're not on the level of Baltimore. So I'm going by that tougher team, that route, that tougher path. And I just see coming out of the AFC, hell, Denver might have to go on the road and beat a team like Buffalo if they're the number one seed, or a team like Baltimore if they're the number 1 or 2 seed. I mean, but again, if you got Kansas City as a wild card, worst case scenario, if it plays out, Kansas City's coming to you. And I think that's a tough out. And like I said, I watched enough of this kid last year. I watched a lot of Washington because, I'm a huge Jaden Daniels fan. And I watched a lot of Denver because I wanted the Giants to draft Bo Nix. And I seen enough of this kid. He doesn't take unnecessary hits. The offensive line kept him upright. He was only sacked 24 times. Yeah, you'll live or die a little bit with some of these interceptions, but don't tell me they can't run the football. They're going to run the football by committee, whether it's going to be McLaughlin, whether it's going to be Williams, and they got very good receivers. And I told you, the sneaky move was Evan Ingram. That's the sneaky move, Evan Ingram. And again, you guys might not like the pick. I don't pick out of spite, because last year I told you Washington was going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? Did I not?
You
I
got two
think
second-year
Carolina is going to be a
quarterbacks.
playoff team. Carolina's going to be better. They're going to be a playoff team. Denver's winning the AFC West, and Washington's getting the Super Bowl as a wild card. 34-31, Bo Nix is your friggin' MVP. I'm not even going to drop the mic because I don't want to drop the Death Star mic. I'm just going to leave it as it is. But that's the prediction, and I'm sticking
You
with
have
it.
your convictions, and we have it all on tape, and mine are out there. And then I put them on X too yesterday, the same exact picks. And the beauty of it is now we're going to get to see it on the field. We're going to see how the season plays out, and we know there's a lot of parity. There's going to be somebody that gets hurt, and just it's a roller coaster, man. And
It is. So let me ask you, give me your pushback on Denver and Washington.
Well, Washington, you obviously got to start with okay, they brought Larry Tunsil in there to shore up that offensive line, but Austin Eckler and I know they have the young runner that played well. They're going to need him to step forward. Eckler to play well. They do have Rodriguez as well in that backfield. Zach Ertz, does he have enough? Do teams roll coverage over to Terry McLaurin because he's their number? Who's their number two? So that's and then Jaden Daniels. He's young. He's young, but he's slender. You worry about a guy like him taking a hit. So that, and then the defense, obviously, they got Bobby Wagner, who's older. There's not a lot of playmakers. They got Von Miller on that defense. So that defense, you got to worry about that. Denver, there's not a lot to throw against it. You know what I mean?
It doesn't always have to be sexy, though. That's the thing is, I think you guys are killing me right now, not you per se, because it's a lot of you guys are bringing up, you got to be kidding me, second-year quarterbacks. We've seen it before. Joe Burrow, Marino, Ben Roethlisberger. You have the head coaches in place. I'm telling you, if I'm also basing this on the notion and the thought of some of these other teams that we're so high on are going to trip up. Like, who's to say, God forbid, you never wish it, but who's to say there's not an injury to Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley or Jared Goff goes down or Jordan Love twists an ankle, and these guys are out for 4 or 5 weeks, and all of a sudden the season gets derailed.
Yeah, and there's going to be twists and turns for every team, and somebody's going to step out of the shadows. Like, we're like, wow, where'd that come from? Joe Flacco leading the Browns to the playoffs a couple of years ago. Sam Darnold, we talked about that. The rebirth of Baker Mayfield, in Tampa. So there's going to be something like that. Now, the key thing is with the Broncos, I just believe too much in the Chiefs. I just, they got to beat them. They got to beat them. And if they do beat them, you tip their cap to them. And, but Reed and Mahomes, it's just so tough to knock them off that perch.
I know, but the Eagles did it. They're not the 72 Dolphins, the 78 Steelers, right? How many second-year quarterbacks have a slump? Way more than 3 that went to a Super Bowl.
Well, we do see a lot of ascension from that in the second year.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. But de facto is also a known Washington hater. So you got to call into question, his credibility on that. He's an Eagles fan. He can't stand Washington. He doesn't believe in Jaden Daniels. He lives down in the DMV. He's got to deal with that radio. It's not better than Philly. The point is, he's a Washington hater. So his opinion is based on that.
Yeah, and when you look at Jaden Daniels, he's head and shoulders above the rest of these young quarterbacks. I mean, he's playing extremely well. Bo Nix put up good numbers last year, but Daniels just carrying his team right away. And so it's going to be fun to watch him this season.
Nick and Wallingford chimes in. Q, if Nix goes down week 1, will you be on the air Monday?
See, he's thinking the same way I am.
Who did I have last year? I had Cincinnati and I had Detroit. Did I not?
Yeah, I think you might have.
I think I had Cincinnati.
I'm pretty sure you did.
Yeah. Best part of football is unpredictability. Your picks are a lot more fun. I don't think it'll happen, but it'll be fun. Yeah, listen, it's very easy for me to say Kansas City and Philly. Like a couple years ago, Kansas City and San Francisco, or Baltimore and Philly, or Buffalo and Philly. it's everyone's got their reasoning for the picks, and I guess I'm a little more higher on these teams going forward than some are, and that's okay. And I really like the quarterbacks. Now, you know, I take a little umbrage to you basically saying I kiboshed and mushed them. Like I
No,
can't
I just
listen.
tease.
I can't be held accountable for any type of injuries that might occur. I don't play offensive line, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, look, I've been picking these forever since I've been a
yeah,
writer. Going back 20 years, and I may have gotten it right like once or twice. There's always going to be some kind of factors that come
yeah.
out of nowhere.
Lastly, who do you have? Who do you have for MVP?
I had Joe Burrow. I think
You
Joe
did?
Burrow. Yeah, I think it's going to be his time to finally. Last year's numbers were just ridiculous, and I think he would have had a chance last season, but the record of the Bengals wasn't good enough. So if he drives into the playoffs and puts up those type of fantasy football numbers he did last year, I think he'll finally win it.
Yeah, I was on every Monday after wins. Don't tell me that de facto. You're talking about my man who's doing God's work on the road right now. I don't want to throw Angel on the bus under the bus, but there were technical difficulties. I'm going to say on SR 102's end, not on my end. How about that? Yeah, I'll throw him under the bus. Who the hell cares? He's not listening right now. I think Burrow, man, dark horse, Kyler Murray, Knicks, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson again, Jalen Hurts maybe. It's definitely going to be a quarterback. Yeah, I mean, I partly threw him under the bus. Let's be honest. Yeah, I mean, well, you know what? I did throw him under the bus. That's okay. He'll be all right. He'll
That's our
he'll live to
guy.
fight. Yeah, he'll live to fight another day. I would say, if Lamar Jackson puts up the numbers like he did last year, my goodness, they're a 13, 14 win team. He's. I mean, can I go again outside the box?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm looking at the odds now, so I'm like, these are from a while back, but go ahead, give me your.
How about Kyler Murray?
No, he was way back. He's not even listed on the list I have here.
There you go. So you know what? Just for shits and giggles, give me Kyler Murray. We'll take a flyer on that. Let me see what the odds are right now. MVP odds. Oh my goodness. Plus 550. No,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Plus 5,500. You know what? Let's
yeah,
do it. $20, a couple shekels. There we go. He's not even a top 10. Wow.
yeah.
Now, if they make the playoffs and he has a 35 and 10 type of season, 4,000 yards, another 500 on the ground, never know. They win 10, 11 games. That's a hell of a story.
It could, and then in that division, if they win it, yeah, they'll everybody will be talking about him, and
Yeah.
and he'll have his opportunity. So we'll see, but I tend to think it's going to be Jackson, Burrow, Allen, you know,
Sure.
Jaden Daniels, all the people we
Yeah.
expect to be in the race. So, what do you think about Stroud? Do you think Stroud could jump in that race?
I think he's a very good quarterback. He regressed though, to
Yeah,
Trevor's point, second year. Uh, it's almost like Jordan and Love, right? I mean, I still don't know. I think CJ Stroud's a really good quarterback. I don't put him at that, and I don't put Kyler Murray. I'm just saying odds wise.
yeah,
I still think you're right. I mean, ultimately, objectively, all jokes aside, it's three or four quarterbacks in the league that we're going to make a case for every season: Burrow, Allen, Jackson, Mahomes. You might put Jalen Hurts in that conversation. I mean, Stafford could put up numbers if his back's okay. He can put up gaudy numbers. Jared Goff can put up gaudy numbers. Um, I don't think Darnold's going to duplicate the success he had last year in Minnesota. That's a quarterback that may could take a step back. Geno Smith might take a step back. These are veteran guys, your quote journeyman. Baker Mayfield, take a flyer on him. If you think Tampa's going to win the division, he puts up some gaudy numbers. I just don't look at Stroud. He doesn't strike me as that guy just yet. I think he's a very good quarterback. Um, they have to win that division. That's the thing. Like you're the better team, and I look at 20 touchdowns, 12 picks. That
yeah.
I got to see more from him, to be quite honest with you.
He's got to play better, and
Yeah,
he was getting hit a lot. So we'll see, but I tend to think. Jackson, Burrow, Allen, they're going to be up there. And if their teams have success, that'll drive who's going to win that MVP. And if Knicks has the season you're talking about and Denver does, You got to throw him in there. So it's going to be
Oh,
fun to watch. And like I
I
said,
might
some
have a
people
lot of
feel
tickets. Yeah, I might have a lot of tickets on Bo Nix. And let me tell you something. The day you know what to bet, I'm going to be in trouble. I'm gonna have to pick up more broadcast on the weekends. All right, brother. We'll tune in Monday. We got you 8 to 9. Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. We dropped a new 60-minute Week 1 BYP preview. All the lines up on the YouTube channel. It's also going to be on SR 102 9. It's also going to be on TV 48 WWON. So Lloyd's going to join me as he typically does every week as we do all the editions of BYP. Hey, enjoy the football tonight. And I feel bad. You're going to have to deal with all your relatives when the Eagles are winning 31-6. But
yeah,
have
they're
fun.
excited, and but I'm excited too because football's back, baby. Hallelujah. Let's get it on.
There you go. You got it. All right, brother. Always appreciate you, man. Great
All
stuff.
right, Q, talk to you.
All right. My guy, Lloyd Vance. Excellent, excellent stuff. Nick and Wallingford says, no way it's going to be Denver and Washington. Q, you're doing a little smoking and joking. Tom C. in Summers Point says, out of spite, your caller or your listener was 100% correct. Monday Marcus chiming in on a Thursday. What the hell are you smoking? Q. Sarge says, you know what? Not a bad prediction, Q. Hey, listen, it's it's all fun. It's entertainment purposes, right? I mean, it would be interesting to see if it played out Denver and Washington, but who knows? Every year there's always a surprise team for the most part. For the most part in the NFL, you'll get those surprises here and there. Maybe Jacksonville makes a deep run. Maybe, Daniel Jones is reborn in Indiana. I don't know. It's just, as Scott said, that's what makes the NFL season so special and so unique. All right, we got to start wrapping up. You got the Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles tonight, kickoff 2025 in Philly, 8:15. That line is still sitting at 8.5. I think it's going to close right around 8.5. It's actually 8:20 kickoff. You got the Brazil game tomorrow. We'll preview Kansas City and the Chargers. We'll have John Bueller tomorrow. We might have a special guest or two on a What the Freak Football Friday edition of On Cue. But excellent stuff with the comments. BYP dropped. It's out on Amazon Podcast, Spotify. It's out on my YouTube channel. We went through all the week 1 lines, the trends, the stats, player props, everything to get you ready for your betting purposes for week 1. Enjoy kickoff tonight. Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles look to their march to defend the crown and get back to the Super Bowl and win it again. There's a lot of pressure on the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a lot of pressure on the Dallas Cowboys. But as we alluded to, that's what makes week 1 of the NFL season so special because week 1 only comes once during the season. It's a special time. NFL is here, splashing a little college football, weather turning a little bit. Now all of a sudden, boom, you got a little hot toddies going on, keeping yourself warm. September, and here we go. Just enjoy the games, have fun with it. I know there's going to be a lot of trash talking between us on the air throughout the football season. I look forward to it. We'll be back in the saddle tomorrow for Football Friday, What the Freak Friday edition of On Cue. I want to remind everyone we've been powered by our good friends at Get Ready with Tea, 3 Brooks Bourbon, fresh roasted coffee, the Jersey Shore breaks of the TBL. A couple more sponsors we're going to be adding and bringing on to the program, so we're very excited about that. And as I mentioned, BYP can be seen 11 to 12 every Sunday. TV 48 in Brooklyn, WWON. Everyone have a wonderful Sports Thursday. We will be back in the saddle mañana tomorrow. We're hoping we are on the air around 4-ish for a 2-hour week 1 preview show. I know we'll man up on a Friday, even though it's technically a Friday and not a Monday, but appreciate you guys keeping it locked in for the past almost an hour and a half, as you guys do every single solitary week. And if you are just tuning in, yes, I'll pull it up there one more time. My Super Bowl prediction: the Denver Broncos will defeat the Washington Commanders 34-31, and your MVP is letting Bo Nix cook. There you have it. So if you're a Broncos fan, you should be very happy. You got your divisional winners right there and your wild card participants coming out of the NFC. And then, as I mentioned, the AFC plus your wild card participants. We'll put this up on X as well as TikTok and Facebook. So have a good Sports Thursday. Enjoy the Eagles and the Cowboys. We'll do it again on a Friday. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.